There she is. Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our last meeting before the election.
Happy last meeting, Carrie.
Thank you. I know it feels kind of surreal. Let me just find my Zoom meeting language. I got distracted talking to people at town hall and lost my meeting language. Hold on one second.
Last meeting, no notes. Got to do it from
I
memory.
know.
You can just make it up for the last meeting.
I could just make it up. All right. Well, anyway, happy Tuesday, May 10th, everyone. How is everyone? I would love to officially call this meeting to order with a roll call vote. Jack, you're muted.
Jack Creighton here.
Ray Evans here.
Jean Healy Dipple here.
Diane Kennedy here.
Carrie Thompson here. And all are invited to join the board for the Pledge of Allegiance if they wish to participate. I will turn my computer towards our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Tonight's meeting is being conducted live on our Zoom platform and also live streamed on Cohasset 143 and our town Facebook page. Anyone who'd like to participate, please raise your hand and I will allow you in if it seems appropriate. And please note that comments tonight are not being monitored anywhere besides this Zoom link. So if you're on Facebook, we are not monitoring those comments. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on our 143 page and on the Facebook page. All right, here we go. First order of business, our town manager contract renewal vote. I know that we've all seen the updated version of this contract. Everyone should have gotten it in the packet. It's also been posted all around for people to see. Does anyone have any comments about that? This is a really important thing that we get done tonight, in my opinion. I just want to say that I know how hard our town manager works. I don't think I truly realized how important the role of town manager is until I got on the select board and saw what the day-to-day activities are. And I just think we are so lucky to have Chris Sr. as our town manager. I think he is incredibly competent. I think he is thoughtful. I think he's hardworking. And I think it's really important that we get this done tonight. So Corey, I saw your hand first, then Jean, then Diane. For those who did not watch our meeting last time, we reviewed the final one with our lawyer and the final draft and final negotiations with our lawyer in executive session. Our lawyer then fixed the draft, got the final draft back. Chris has seen the final draft. Diane and Jean, who both served on the committee, have seen the final draft. So we've all seen the final draft, hoping we can get it locked down tonight. Corey, your hand was up first.
I think Jean was first. Jean, do you mind if I just jump in with the thing? Okay. The only things were, for the record, what I just like to confirm, this matches my notes, but I just want to hear from the working committee that this is that they approve this final draft. And I would also like to hear from Mr. Senior that he agrees and to the terms as laid out, just for the record.
Sure. No, thanks for clarifying that, Corey. Diane?
Just in terms of the discussions that we had with council, she made the changes that we discussed in executive session. Jean and I went back and forth. There was literally like one, I don't know, an article or something that wasn't transferred from the version. Jean and I corrected that. And once we were comfortable that we had exactly the contract that we agreed upon, we then sent it to Chris and town council for Chris to weigh in on it. So I'll let him answer.
Okay. And Diane and Jean, I know you worked really hard on getting this final draft done and on these negotiations. So thank you both again. This was not easy. And I believe you've done a lot of good changes to the contract in general too that needed updated. Hi, Chris.
I'm sorry, of all things, I'm having technical problems. So
That's okay. We'll get through it.
My computer just threw me off, so I had to get on my.
No problem.
Apologize for the kind of random look here. So yes, I did get the contract. I did give it a look. that one tiny tweak that Diane mentioned was not substantive. It just had to do with a reference to the personnel bylaw, which was updated. So yes, I want to appreciate, I appreciate all the work that was done. I'm comfortable with the contract, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to its ratification tonight and being able to sign it in the next couple of days.
Thank you, Chris. Corey, does that answer your question, or do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, perfect. Sorry, I left my hand
Okay.
up. My apologies.
Jean?
And I apologize for providing maybe a bit more background. I know everyone knows about this, but I'm going to go for it.
No, go for it.
So first, just by way of background, I just wanted to level set on the reality of what we expect from our town manager and what his job description is in a nutshell for those listening or watching. He's responsible for the day-to-day management and supervision of the town and its employees, for creating and administering the budget, labor negotiations and collective bargaining, supporting the work and meeting of the select board and all town committees and boards with a few exceptions, maintenance of all facilities, preparing our warrants, running our town meeting, acting as our chief financial officer. So as a practical matter, this means supervising employees, attending and prepping for meetings most weeknights, handling all range of town matters from personnel to litigation, to state grants, to constantly being vigilant and on top of our finances, constantly interfacing with a all volunteer set of officials, whether appointed or elected, with a range of different ideas, opinions, and approaches, and handling all range of matters brought by our citizens as well. So we do ask a lot of our town manager. And second, I just want to also say that I have listened to and carefully considered many residents' opinions about Mr. Senior and the work he's done over the years. I've also reviewed the facts of Cohasset, including the town, I believe, has made great strides over the last decade to build a stable base. We have relative financial stability, a AAA rating, a talented staff, and an extremely desirable town that people want to live in. That strong base has enabled us to withstand quite significant shocks from the pandemic, including financial shocks that many towns, including our neighbors, are now grappling with, but we are not. Now, there are certainly areas that I think Mr. Senior can and should improve upon, and we'll discuss those at the appropriate time relating to his performance review. There are also areas of improvement that are probably rightly laid at the feet of the select board and our leadership, which we need to continue to improve upon, as we will discuss later on relating to the select board's goals. But when considering all things, Mr. Senior has done an excellent job, and Cohasset's relative financial stability is a testament to Mr. Senior's strengths as our town manager. So last, I just want to touch on the actual proposed contract and summarize it briefly for people who haven't read through it and know all the changes in the red lines, because why would you? So as to the new proposed contract, as one of the two members of the negotiating committee, Member Kennedy and I obtained town contracts from all over the state, as many as we could find. We also reviewed all of the contracts of our other non-union executives within our town. And based on that information, we did negotiate and make several changes that you now see reflected in this new proposed contract. So for example, and I'm highlighting some of the most significant changes, we reduced Mr. Senior's severance payment in the instance of a termination for reason other than cause from 1 year to 6 months in order to normalize his contract with industry standard and appropriately calibrate select board power. On the other hand, we increased Mr. Senior's compensation and benefits and approved a provision to allow him to do certain outside activities, such as teaching a class, which is common in the government and in other town manager contracts. On balance, I think the contract is fair and it sets the stage for Cohasset to ascend to the next level with Mr. Senior's help.
Thank you, Jean. That was a great little synopsis and really helpful. And again, everyone can see how much work has gone into this. Diane?
Yeah, Jean said a lot of what I was going to say. I think it's important for the public to know that one of the things we spent a lot of time doing was benchmarking the contracts against other communities and also within the town of Cohasset. And I think for the first time, since I've been on the board, you know, we really deep dived into the current contracts within the town of Cohasset and also the personnel bylaws to kind of reset a lot. And there wasn't a lot to be reset, frankly. The buyout provision was the most significant one. So, and then I think, you know, it's just important to say that Jean's, I mean, when she described the role and the responsibilities of the town manager, it is significant. And there are things in the stability of the workforce cannot be overstated. And I think that, you know, given we're in the great whatever resignation and there's all kinds of opportunities in the public sector that don't have to front face with, as Jean said, with, you know, 5 different select people who all have different priorities and a community of, you know, 8,000 people that all have opinions, even the kids. You know, it is a very big job, and we have had relative stability despite, you know, a lot of, you know, water balloons being thrown our way. So I'm really grateful we're here and can approve this contract tonight in public. And thanks to Chris for, again, his hard work and his patience with us as we did this right. I think the public should know that, you know, we spent a lot of time because we wanted to do the right thing and make sure we could comfortably recommend this particular contract and every word in it to everybody. So thanks.
I agree. Thank you for that. Again, if we haven't said it already, this is such an important position. We are so lucky to have Chris. We have such a wonderful town staff, and a lot of that is a testament to Chris. And I'm excited to get this done. Is there any further discussion on this, or are we ready to make a motion?
I'll move that the select board ratify.
Oh, hold on.
Sorry, Jack. Didn't see your
Jack
hand.
put his hand up.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm prepared to support this. People at home should know that the real meat of the discussion was made at our last meeting, and this was just to formalize that the various punctuation marks were consistent. You know, I have had some concerns about public access to the process. However, this process has been done within the power of the select board. And I see no reason to, you know, not vote to approve. I think it's very, very important that when the select board has discussions and that when we come to a conclusion, that all of us work together for the good of the town, because we've been elected to guide our town. So we need to do this, and I'm very glad to do that. And I'm very glad to work with my fellow members of the select board. And so I intend to vote. In the future, we may wish to be a little bit more transparent, but that is a conversation for a different time. For tonight, I think the select board needs to unanimously signal that we are prepared to work together with our town manager to move Cohasset forward.
Okay.
Jack, that was great. You want to make the motion?
You already made it.
No,
It
I
hasn't been a
stopped the
full
motion.
motion yet. We
I
need a
didn't
full
fill it, so
motion.
I think you should
I would
carry that.
move to
Okay,
approve.
Jean, do it. Yeah, go ahead, Jean.
I think Diane and I should move in second, given the
All right, perfect.
untold hours. I would move to approve the proposed new contract for Mr. Senior. That is in our packets.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, big roll call vote, starting with Jack.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Chris, congratulations and thank you. Yeah.
If I could just take 30 seconds. So I do want to thank the board for this vote and vote of confidence. And also just to thank everybody, because any successes that I've had are because of the collaboration that we've all enjoyed. This is Cohasset. It's the town of the residents. I'm here to serve it. I'm here to help you find the goals that you want to achieve and achieve them. And sometimes that's a lot easier than other times. That said, it's always good to dive in. I think the last town meeting is an example we were able to tackle 15 warrant articles, which took months and months and months of preparation. And there was some very hefty, very well thought out discussion on several other articles, and it was good. It was a really good example.
It
Community
was.
getting out there and speaking, and that's because people did a tremendous amount of work. And again, I want to thank everybody for the support, both on the board here and also the volunteers and residents that I work with every day. That actually makes the job special. It makes it successful, and I'm looking forward to, as Jean points out, to ascending even further. I know there's a lot on the plate, which makes it very exciting. We have some great staff members, and in 2 weeks, I'm looking to do some HR updates with all of you. So I'll hold that for then. But again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. All right. I'm very happy and excited we got that done. That was great. All right. Moving into public comment. If anyone has a public comment or would like to come into public comment, I'm monitoring the room right now. Please raise your hand. I do not see anyone yet, but if someone pops in, please alert me and let me know. All right. We now have some minutes that need approved, I believe, from 4/26 and 5/2. Has anyone been able to check the minutes? Is everyone okay with it? Anything you want changed? Any issues with them?
Nope, I read them. I'm willing to make a motion to approve the minutes of April 26, 2022 and May 2nd, 2022.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. Jack.
As is my custom, until such time as we incorporate the electronic copies in our minutes, I do not think they are complete. And I think we are not well served as a town by not having that backup electronic copies officially adopted. Thank you. No.
Jack, you got to
Or
vote.
or is no okay? Should I back up and
It's
say
a
no?
vote. No speech. Vote. Okay.
But I do it every time.
I know you do. I
Corey Evans,
allowed it.
aye.
Jean Haley Dippled.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right, those minutes are approved. All right, next on our agenda, licenses, permits, and events. I believe our first order of business is the Cohasset Historical Society for a one-day liquor license for September 10th, 2022. Glenn, I see you're here, and I just have to say, I am so excited that this event is coming back. It's another one of a lot of our favorites. So welcome, Glenn. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So about 10 years ago, we started a very successful fundraiser, which was a old-fashioned clam bake on Sandy Beach. We've done 3 of them. We missed 2020 because of the pandemic, and we're ready to go again this year. We've worked out the date with the Sandy Beach Association, the 10th, which is a Saturday, late afternoon, early evening, with a rain date on Sunday, the 11th. And so we are looking forward to it, and we think a lot of folks will be happy that it's back. So we'd ask for your permission for a one-day liquor license.
Thank you. I'm definitely happy it's black. It's just a quintessential Cohasset event and also a very good fundraiser with a good cause. Any questions for Glenn or about this event or any concerns about it?
Nope.
If not, we can move to approve.
I move to approve the issuance of a one-day liquor license for September 10th with a rain date of September 11th for the Historic Society and the event to take place at Sandy Beach.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dippled.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Thank you, Glenn. We're all excited to attend.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you there.
You'll see a lot of us, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next up, hi, Patrice. You're right on time. South Shore Arts Festival. For those who need a reminder, last meeting we approved part of their licenses, but we have to continue just so we made sure we had the paperwork in order. So I believe this is for entertainment licenses for the Arts Festival from June 16th through 19th, and then a one-day liquor license for June 17th, which is
Nope,
the usual.
16th.
Oh, what?
16th.
It's the 16th. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. And yeah, the 16th is the Thursday night event fundraiser that
Correct.
we usually have,
Yeah.
right, Patrice? Okay. Chief Quigley, I see you joining us too. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So Patrice, just remind us again of what we're approving tonight. I know we approved some of it, but have any changes happened since we last talked a couple weeks ago?
No changes except that Chief Quigley and I did connect to talk about who the tip certified liquor holder, like the person who would be representing that would be. And he does approve her. Her name is Lori Roth. She owns La Bevo. Many of you know her as chef and bartender for Holly Hill. And so he's very familiar with her and felt comfortable that she would be okay to represent us for that night.
Okay. Wonderful. Chief, do you?
No, as Patrice said, and I'm just going to touch base further with the vendor, just to pin down some of the rules that a couple of things that we noticed during one of the previous festivals on the common. We just want to make sure we're very clear.
Okay, good.
We're
Yeah.
all set though. We're good.
Yay, thank
And
you.
I think that was a good learning lesson to just figure out what needs to change and how to make it more safe and appropriate.
Yeah.
No, it was great. It was a low impact event, and
Exactly.
we worked the bugs out, and we'll be better the next time.
Yeah, no, it's better that it happened before the arts festival, I think.
It's-
I do have a question.
Yes.
So we have typically had music at the Thursday night event, but I want to make sure that there is no town ordinance for the music ending at a certain time. I mean, obviously, it's not going to, the event ends at 10.
Right.
Does music have to end before then, or is 10 o'clock okay?
I think that's fine. I don't think there's any other rule about that at all.
No, there's no hard time in the law.
Yeah.
There's no, it's
Gray
just
area.
it's
It
reasonable.
won't be heavy metal, I promise.
Oh, darn.
Except for Jack. We'll do our double horns.
I'm pretty sure the music circus has music that goes later than that.
Oh, okay, that's a good point. All right, so, and so, yeah, so I hadn't included entertainment licenses with my original package because I didn't, it had said in the event package that it might be needed, but it wasn't specified and it wasn't something that we had done before. So we have now crossed our Ts and dotted our Is, and we included the entertainment license. So that is for Thursday night where we'll have a band, and then that will cover the performance stage Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the days during the hours of operation of the festival.
Perfect. No, that's good.
And the
Jean,
Thursday night event, so I'm sorry,
no,
Carrie.
go ahead. No, go ahead. I
ends
saw
at
you
10?
thinking, Jean. It
The,
ends at 10,
the
Jean.
music ends at 10 on Thursday, and there's
the-
no music at night on,
The
Yeah.
other days, it ends at 7. And then Father's Day at 5. So just to recap for all of you, on Thursday night, the event is 6 to 10. On Friday, the performance stage is up from 1 to 5. On Saturday, the 18th, it is 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. And then on Sunday, which is Father's Day, June 19th, it is 12 to 5.
Perfect. Diane,
I want to make a motion.
good.
So I move that we approve the entertainment license for the South Shore Arts Center for Thursday, June 16th through Sunday, June 19th at the times that Patrice just articulated.
Second,
All right. Motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Nearly Dipple Dye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye.
And I expect to see everybody dancing.
You will, yes, we need our invites to the Thursday night party, Patrice.
Coming next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Do we still, hold on, wait, real quick.
We gotta
Patrice.
do the one-day liquor
We
license.
still need to do the one-day liquor
Okay.
license.
I won't leave.
I think we still need to do that one. I have it on here. I wasn't sure if we did it or not. Let's just do that again to be safe
Okay.
for the one day.
I move that the select board issue a one-day liquor license for the South Shore Arts Center on Thursday, June 16th, between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. on the Cohasset Common.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All right, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Nearly Dipple Dye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Okay, we got them all done now, I think, Patrice. We're good to go.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, Patrice, and you're not going to revisit the heavy metal, would you?
I'll think about it, just for you,
All right,
Jack.
thank you.
Just for you. All right, cheers, everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
and thank you, Chief, for weighing in on that. You're obviously welcome to stay
Thank you.
in the meeting.
I
All right.
think I have another section coming up, so I'll jump
I
back.
think,
in.
yeah. I was gonna say, yes, stay as long as you want. All right. Last order of business under this agenda item, Red Lion Inn has a request for extension of hours. Let's see, Tony, I think you're coming in the room.
Yes, good
I'm
evening,
gonna step
everybody.
out.
Hi, Tony. What?
Hi, how are you?
I'm gonna step out, Carrie.
Okay, yep, go ahead. All right, you can start now, Tony. How are you? How are
I'm
things
doing
going?
great. Everything is going very well, so we're moving to a busy season.
Yep,
We already started it since last week. We have 2 weddings pretty much every week. So we are ready to open the patio at the Salt House by the end of the month. We are working opening the deck and the beer garden here behind the hotel by May 27th.
great.
So a lot of things are moving. Also, we had we're gonna redo the landscaping. We'll start next week. We'll do some upgrades in front of the hotel and in the back of our parking lot.
Perfect. And clarify for us, or just go over why you're asking for these specific extension of hours requests.
So there is 3 extension. It's a weddings. It's a pop-up weddings that we recently booked. The first one, it's on August 21st. We need extension for the cave. This is after wedding party. Starts from 10 p.m. until 12 a.m.
Okay,
The second one, it's on August 28th, which is the last week of August. We need extension for the cave from 10 a.m. until 2 a.m. This is after wedding party. And then we need another extension for the New Year's Eve at the barn, in the barn until 12:15 a.m. From 12:15 a.m. until 2 a.m. I'm sorry.
all right. And again, I know you've still been playing catch up from COVID weddings and you're all trying to get those in still, so it has.
Yeah, I think these are the last extension that I will be asking for approval.
Okay. Questions, thoughts, concerns for Tony? Jack?
Yeah, Tony, I'm glad you mentioned that because we had given you quite a bit of latitude because of COVID. But I think what you're indicating is that you probably are going to go back to the regular schedule.
That's correct, Jack.
Just wanted, I think the neighbors are a little concerned, and that doesn't preclude you in the future when you have special circumstances. But I don't think we want it to have it happen kind of a lot. And I wish you well, by the way. It's nice that you guys survived COVID.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're especially excited for the Old Salt patio to open again.
Yeah, it's going to be very nice. So today I spent a lot of hours of putting these tables together. We have a new paving, we have new railings, we'll have some string lights, some flowers. We have a new menu, new wine and cocktail list. It's going to be very, very good.
Sounds fantastic.
A lot of kids from last year, they already reached out to us to get their job back. So probably I will have a lot of kids from Cohasset, Situate, Hingham. So join us during the summer.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts or questions for Tony?
I'll just say experience summer help is
Yes.
half the battle, I think.
Yeah.
So that
True.
sounds great.
Thank
I
you.
don't have any questions. If the board's, Corey does, so I'll hold off on a motion.
Yeah, I'm as usual, I'm usually the wet blanket on these things. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with, well, number one, the email just doesn't give us a date, just says NYE, and it says it's asked for an extension until 2 p.m., not 2 a.m. I mean, so typically, I think, if we're going to do these things, we should have a bullet list of the dates and the times. And because I know Tony just gave us a list, but he corrected himself a few times, and just, if we're going to do this, it has to be in writing and it has to be right. Or else we're just I'm just not comfortable with us kind of doing it on the fly like this. So that's just, I personally would prefer us take this up at another date, just with a cleaner request, because I'm not very comfortable with how this request was made this time around.
So I have a spreadsheet with all the dates, and I sent it to Tracy, so she should be, most likely she kept the record of all the dates, so I can resend my email if you like.
Can you resend that email to us too, Tony? Just
Yes,
okay.
absolutely. I'll send it to Tracy.
Okay. Jack, then Diane.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Corey. I think that's important. But I think as Tony indicated earlier, these are the last of what we might call the COVID era. And then after that, I think we really have to go back to, as Corey mentioned, making sure it's very clear and a little bit more organized. But for now, I'm very comfortable with this.
Thank you, Jack.
Diane.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Corey's right. I think there's a few typos just in the New Year's Eve request. So if we could, if it's okay with the board, I'll move that we approve the extension of the hours until 12 a.m. in the cave on Sunday, August 21st, and also Sunday, August 28th. And does that reflect what you're asking for, Tony?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
There's
for
a motion.
clarifying that, Diane. All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you so much. And I'll send the spreadsheet with all the dates that we are requesting. And I'll send another one for New Year's Eve in the barn, which is from 12 to 2 a.m.
Perfect.
Right. I think that just so you know, Tony, in the original email, it doesn't say, December 31st into January 1st. And it says till 2 p.m. instead of 2 a.m. So that gets clarified. I think we can move on that quickly next time.
All right. Yeah, definitely. I'll send it. I'm sorry about it.
All right.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you,
Thank
Tony.
you.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Good luck.
Yeah. Thank
Summer's here.
Yeah.
I know, it's
Thanks.
so exciting. All right, next on our agenda, our American Legion lease review and vote. This has also been a long time coming. We have been working hard on this. We actually have Joe as a guest here in person tonight, and Michelle is here to talk about it. Michelle, are you gonna have Joe on camera with you? I don't know if she hears me. There they are. Okay.
So as we know, we initiated an RFP for the location of 88 Summer Street, where the American Legion is housed. We let it run for 30 days as required by law, and we received one response, and that was from the American Legion. In their response, they reminded us of many things that they do for the community, which was wonderful. They reminded us they're the home to more than just one group. They're the American Legion, the Auxiliary, Sons of the American Legion, and the American Legion Riders. They also reminded us of their stewardship to the community, where they sponsor scholarships, contribute to school athletics, Deer Hill School Band, summer recreation departments, and they also support and assist veterans programs and visits to the VA hospitals. They reminded us that they also allow youth organizations and athletic groups to meet upstairs in the facility when needed. So during the process, we asked that the person that respond be responsible for capital upgrades. So they reminded us that the building has undergone several upgrades since they've taken it over. The upgrades are painting. They put in a sprinkler system and they schedule annual testing. They made it ADA compliant with a stair lift that was recently installed. They have camera systems. They put new kitchen equipment in. So they've done many upgrades. They did request a 25-year lease at $1, which is consistent with what they've done in the past. They were first given a lease in 1989 for 25 years. So we would like just to award them a new lease for another 25 years so they can continue to be great stewards of the community.
Okay, well said, Michelle. And Joe, thank you for all your work pushing to get this done too. As we know, the Legion is such an important part of our community. They do so much for our community. So I'm excited that we can have this ready on the agenda tonight. Corey and then Diane.
Yeah, I'm very well aware of all the work that's been done to that building, just by members and groups, and just how it's really a community built thing. And I'm glad I flagged section 9. I'm glad that this contract I recognizes the improvements that have been done and protects those improvements going forward. So I'm very happy with a lot of how this lease came out. So I'm excited for it.
Okay, Diane.
Just a couple of things. When I made a list of questions that before I read the lease terms, and they were all answered. Primary was obviously the capital improvements and maintaining the building, because we're watching you know, the deferred maintenance that happens on the town buildings that we're responsible for have kind of come home to roost in a big way for the town. So thank you for adding that in there. One of the questions I did have, and I don't know if Chris has the answer to this, but my understanding of this lease is that the Legion is responsible for their own insurance, their own like property and casualty insurance. And because it's a town-owned building, I just want to understand if that's kind of standard practice, if it's a town-owned building that's leased to another entity.
Good question, Michelle.
So the Legion does hold their own insurance, as well as the town holds them under our umbrella policy.
Okay,
Because it is
so
a
it's-
town-owned facility.
It is covered under that. Okay, that's great. I have no more questions. Thank you very much for the hard work.
All right, Jean, I think I saw your hand next, then Jack.
I just had a quick question about this lease, again, on paragraph 9. I think it all looks great. And I think it appropriately sort of reflects the balance that we're trying to get to. The one thing that sort of caught my eye just from the standpoint of the town is, if we're in year 23 of the lease and they make a significant improvement and we terminate in year 24, arguably, if the improvement is a 20-year, if it has a 20-year lifespan value, we pay out 19 years. So I think the town and the select board need to realize that as we're sort of straddling different lease ends, 25 years from now, it's not going to matter, frankly, to any of us. But I appreciate that the Legion on its end needs to be able to make improvements with the certainty that they're going to be able to get that money out. If, something happens and the select board wants to terminate or something like that, I totally get that. From their perspective, I just think the town needs to also understand what that dynamic means in terms of locking us into potentially repaying improvements, even though the lease expires, if those improvements are made at the end of the lease. That's how I read this provision.
Jean, I think that's covered, because I was looking at this and I reread it twice to be sure this is the case.
Yeah.
It says prior to the expiration of the term in the first sentence there. So I think that we're protected from that scenario. I mean, I do think that the worry would be if we want to cancel it a year ahead of time, but I think if this, and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, if this expires, then basically all the improvements are handed over. Is to us without any further payment. Is that correct?
That is correct. And there's also a provision in here that any major capital improvements, which likely would run a 20-year span, have to be approved by the select board ahead of time.
Okay. And again, the 25-year is a very standard term for something like this, right? Like that's fairly.
Yeah, and
standard.
I'm talking about prior to the lease's termination. year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Jack, then Diane.
Actually, that type of protection for a tenant making capital improvements is probably pretty standard even in commercial leases. But I just think that the American Legion and all their things is such a part of this town. We have an absolutely incredible Memorial Day celebration. We're punching well above our weight, and that's because of the American Legion. So what they need, I think they've been very reasonable. They provide a very good service, and when the time is appropriate, I would love to move to approve this.
Okay, Diane.
I think Michelle answered it. What I was going to say is, I mean, the fact that a major capital improvement would have to be run by the select board in the first place, let's say they wanted to do it in year 22 or 23, certainly the horizon of the end expiration of the lease would be part of the conversation. So I'm very comfortable with this as well. And to Jack's point about Memorial Day, I mean, what the American Legion and that facility does and stands for over the course of the week is just truly remarkable. I think I spend more time there than I do in town hall over the course of a year. So I'm happy to move that we approve the lease as presented for the American Legion. Hold on, I got to get the license of 88 Summer Street.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Okay. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Jeannie Haley Dipple.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Thank you, Michelle, for all of your work on this. I know this has been a lot of work. And Joe, thank you for all your help and coming
thanks
here
for
to see us
approving this.
tonight.
And as we continue with our second 100 years in that building.
Good for you.
That's good to hear. I love that.
We'll be at the bicentennial celebration.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'll be the guy in the chair.
All right, you can come out, Joe. You'll be on camera when you come out. Okay. All right. Glad we got that done. We're getting some important things done tonight. I'm very proud of that we needed to get done, I think. All right. So I'm saying goodbye to Joe. Bye, Joe. All right, moving on to ARPA funding. We have an ARPA funding update, I believe, both about alumni field and a possible discussion about emergency call boxes for both Black Rock and for some other locations. Hi, Chris.
Hello. My computer is still not working, so I'm still on my phone. The first one involves the alumni field. So the bids have come back, and I guess unfortunately, but not surprisingly, they've come in high. Michelle has the exact number, and I want to say it's 178,000. Michelle, is that correct? Are you still there?
She is. Hold on, Phil. She's coming.
So there's a gap. The consensus is that the project should go forward, and the bid has not been awarded because they have to have funding to do that. So the small gap needs to be met up, now. And the recommendation is that we formally tap some of the money the county has in our stead for ARPA. It's an outdoor recreation use. It's definitely public health related, and it's also related to schools and kids. So it's definitely something that should fit within the parameters. That's that one. The second, we have Bill Quigley here tonight and Ron Menard. But before I get to that, let me just see. Do we have that number, Michelle?
We do. It's $132,220.
Okay, $132,220.
$220.
So the ask is that the board authorize an application of that amount, and then we can let the schools formally award the reconstruction of alumni field.
Okay, thank you. Corey, I saw your hand.
And my apologies if you said this, Chris, and I missed it, but this is just to cover that gap because we've already authorized the main piece. I believe in, what was it, special town meeting, is that correct?
It was last year at annual, actually.
Oh, I
yes.
didn't know. Okay, great. So this is just the gap funding. Thank you.
This is the gap, and again, unsurprisingly, bids went high. This is unfortunately a project that's not CPC fund eligible because it's a turf field. They actually did help fund the track. They were allowed to do that. So there's some CPC money in this, there's capital money in this, and there's this is just that little bit of gap funding that's necessary to get the project over the finish line.
Good clarification, Chris. Thank you. Diane?
Yeah, just looking for more clarification. This $132,220 you said would be from the county. So is this something we would be applying for?
Yeah,
From,
we'd apply for our share of the money. I mean, now we could also front our piece of it that's already there, and then kind of so it should come from the county. That said, we have the money available now. So if there's any reason that the county doesn't release the money that we'll apply for, we still have the money. I mean, the project's not going to give up tomorrow. We just have to guarantee the funding's in place for the bill to be awarded.
okay,
So I don't expect any problems with the county. It's just it's really just
right.
a paperwork thing at this point.
At some point, Chris, if it's possible before Don leaves, and I know he's probably got, 800,000 things to do, but it would be great to see a spreadsheet sort of ARPA funds in where they've been expended, and then what the balance that we are eligible to apply for through the county, and how that looks.
Absolutely. I think, again, we're talking about a nature update next week. I think we're on target for a month end update on finances anyway, so we can just add this to the next meeting.
Okay, perfect. Jean?
Yeah, my comments are of a similar tenor, and I'm not going to repeat those, but I do view the ARPA funds as some of the most fungible money that Cohasset has. And I also appreciate that we have bids that are coming in higher than expected, particularly if we're not turning around on those bids quickly because of a variety of factors. But I would like us to think more strategically about the ARPA money instead of resorting to it when we need to fill gaps, because I do think we have an opportunity to do things a little more proactively if we can, including thinking about if, and we may not be able to, moving some of this. There was a split between the CPC and the capital funding, and it happened to be 50-50, but I don't know if that's actually how the exact split fell with respect to turf, which is not CPC eligible, and all other expenses. And so I think and we know this, but just as a reminder, we're going to need to be pretty strategic with all of these different funding sources and the various limitations associated with them as we move forward. I'm in favor of it, but I think we need to sort of discontinue the use of having ARPA be just a gap filler wherever possible.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Any other comments or feedback? Okay, do we want to move to take a vote on this?
Yep, I'll try to do it. I move that we approve the application for county ARPA funding of $132,220 for the purpose of the Alumni Field Turf project.
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dipple.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. All right, the emergency call boxes.
Yeah, so I have I have a view here, so I can see the board.
Chris,
So
you're breaking up a
Bill
little
and-
bit. Hold
Bill
on.
and-
Hold on, Chris, pause for a second. You're breaking
Him
up
a
a
call
little.
box.
We heard part of what you were saying. Chris, maybe try to just mute yourself and go with audio.
Maybe the town Chris lives in has
Yeah.
worse Wi-Fi and
say,
cell coverage than
I
we
thought
do.
I thought Hull had better infrastructure with cell service. I don't know.
I can jump in if you want, if we can't get Chris. I know
Go
he's-
ahead, Chief. Go ahead, Chief.
Oh, so, good evening. So these are the call boxes similar to what you'd see.
You can hear me a little bit.
Hold on, I'm trying to
There you go.
mute him. Sorry. Oh, all right. He's gonna come back. We're fine. Okay.
Okay.
Chief, go ahead.
So these are call boxes that we've seen, that you see similar to ones on college campuses. And it's a box to allow direct access to the 911, into the 911 system. And last summer, we had an issue at Black Rock Beach, Wadley Park, which, you know, it's become wildly popular in the last couple of years. It's really crowded down there during the summer. And as a lot of us know, there's no cell phone service down there at all, just because, you know, cell service is terrible along the shore. So we had a situation where there was a very serious life-threatening medical emergency that someone came across. There was a person that was severely cut, an arterial cut, was bleeding from one of his arteries. He was found on the ground there by a passerby. The passerby was on a bicycle. That passerby attempted to call 911, could not get through. That caused him to run down to the water's edge. He was standing on the rocks, trying to get some height, trying to get a cell signal. He couldn't connect with anybody. It took several minutes, and finally he did get a cell signal, and he connected with the 911 system, but the call was sent to, I believe it was Lynn Police, in several more minutes to get it routed back to the Shrek in Hingham and get us en route. We're able, you know, the gentleman was saved, but it was, you know, it was a really close call, and it had a lot to do with the lack of cell service and the lack of a way to activate emergency services down there. So with the beach being so popular now, one of my fears was that, you know, there's ever, you know, hopefully, you know, not an emergency down that involves a drowning or something like that, or a young child or anybody else, you know, where there's a significant delay in, you know, getting help, you know, we're trying to avoid that. So I talked to Chris brought Ron into the fold, and we looked at some options, and we come up with this call box solution. So I guess I can turn it over to Ron about the technical aspects of what we want to do. But really, we're proposing an emergency 911 call box for Wadley Park that could be used for people that are using that beach.
Thank you. And thank you, Ron. And I do think a lot of us are familiar with this structure that you see on college campuses. I know they also are on Boston Common. I see them a lot of times at night. There's usually a little bit of a light there, but yeah, definitely talk us through some of the more details here, Ron.
So the solution is a call box. As you mentioned, it's found on campuses and other locations. This particular call box leverages a satellite phone. As you know, we're trying to resolve a cellular issue, so cellular signal down there is not going to work. So that limited us to a satellite scenario. Pricing on the individual sites for these call boxes comes in at about $9,500. That includes the solution in TAC, which includes pedestal, solar panel, call box, and a sign indicating 911 options to call. It will also include some potential amount of paving or maybe a little concrete work that might necessarily have to be installed to make it ADA compliant. So if we go off of the edge of road, 8 feet for these call boxes, we would have to make sure that there's a small walkway or path for wheelchair access. So that's also inclusive of that price. And lastly, potential parking bollards that would prevent any damage in the event that a car went into them. So those are some of the things we had to consider. This has been in progress for probably well over a year. We've been discussing the issues down there along Atlantic and Jerusalem with Verizon and AT&T for some time. We've gone through multiple meetings, came up with a number of different scenarios. And as of right now, they have yet to come up with any significant options for us. There have been other irons in the fire with regards to what we've been looking at for solutions, including our own 4G and 5G networks down there by extending our municipal fiber network. There was a lot of logistical issues there. There was a lot of cost associated with that due to no aerial poles being available in some of those sites or underground conduits for us to use. So that became cost prohibitive relatively quickly. Another solution that we're looking at, and one that is still very much alive and well, AT&T and Verizon specifically support this significantly. We are doing some diligence in town with regards to identifying public parcels that we could utilize for a cell tower, whether that be a 4G or a 5G tower remains to be seen. But currently one of the parcels is Wheelwright Park. There is an existing comm tower up there already. And based on all of the preliminary information that we've gotten back from the cell carriers, that would be a macro site that would probably resolve 99, if not 100% of the cell coverage along Atlantic, Jerusalem, and down by Black Rock.
Wow, that's amazing to imagine. I know we've all been in these dead zones. I know we've all been frustrated with not having service, especially around Black Rock and Jerusalem, Atlantic areas, but it is really serious when it comes down to possible life and death situations. So I do think that is a critical location for one of these and maybe possibly some others. Okay, Jean, I think you had your hand up first, then Diane, then Corey.
Just a quick question for you, Chief Quigley. I don't know if this is urban legend or not, but your vignette reminded me of it. Is it quicker when you're trying to help someone to call the local police department, i.e. 383-1212 or 911, because of that routing issue you were talking about? And I ask because it may be helpful to put the number on the call box if, for example, we want people to call 911 or we want them to call our police department directly. I'm just wondering.
So it's actually, we prefer that you call 911.
911. Okay.
And the reason behind that is we get a latitude and longitude on you, and it maps right on the screen.
Okay.
In front of the dispatcher. If you call the traditional 1212 number, it does not do that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
Good to know. Jean, is that your only question?
Yeah, I'm happy to hear about everything else, including the potential new tower in Wheelwright, which I think will be very well received.
Yes. All right, Diane.
I'm excited about all of this, and
Yes.
I want to offer my front yard for a cell tower. I like quite literally.
Diane and I are on both ends of
Careful,
Jerusalem.
Diane. They're looking
I'm
for a spot.
serious. I mean,
Struggle's real.
to me, it's such a safety issue. And my husband was at Black Rock. Billy, sorry, Chief, I thought you were going to talk about this occasion because my husband was at Black Rock when somebody fell and split their head open and was profusely bleeding. And the same situation happened. It was fortunate that we knew I don't even know how it resolved itself, but it required an ambulance. Chris, you're going to be glad we're not meeting in person, or I'm not glad, so you don't throw anything at me, but I am concerned aesthetically speaking, as you know, and I know we've had a lot of conversations over the past about that green area and whether it could get spruced up or have some seating or you know, there was a proposal even pre-pandemic to put some kind of a monument there. So I just want to make sure that, and there's a message board that kind of just got stuck there. So I just want to make sure that this is approached with some kind of general landscape architecture, holistic point of view. I'm all for the box, wherever it has to go, it has to go. The stanchions have to go, but I just want to make sure we're not just plopping things all over that area. So thanks.
Okay. It wouldn't be Cohasset if we didn't bring up the aesthetics too. Those matter. I will say, you even look at a historic place like Boston Common though, and they've done a very nice job, I would argue, of making them kind of blend in with the sidewalks and the scenery where they're not really eyesores. But I understand what you're saying, Diane.
Yeah, listen, I worked at the Art Center for 12 years and it sharpened my focus on this. So that's all. That's all I ask.
Corey's laughing. Are you going to bring up the same thing, Corey?
No, I can't say I share that concern. But anyway, the one concern, and this is maybe on the same vein, unfortunately, is it this is on the Wheelwright Park Tower, is it the existing tower that's there? Would it be built off the existing one? So the question is, when it comes to access, would it require us to improve the Wheelwright Park lane? you know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I mean, if we're going to approve this, we should understand it upfront if it's going to change some of the character of Wheelwright Park.
Yeah, I have to say, with regards to Wheelwright, we're still researching the deed, and there's a lot of legwork that still has to be done before we can even
Premature.
vet
Okay,
that
thanks, Rob.
parcel.
Okay.
So we have a long
fine.
way to go.
All right, thank you.
I'm just laughing right now because my computer keeps telling me our connection at town hall is unstable right now for internet. So it's just, I feel like the universe is speaking to us all that this is
We're all a little
clearly,
unstable tonight, so.
we're all a little unstable. It's clearly an issue that needs to be continually pursued by the select board.
What's really important is that we recognize there's a significant issue here, and we've been really, putting our heads together and working. And I really want to thank Ron and Bill and their staffs for all the work they've done on this, including going to the woods to see what actually works. So this is the first step. The nice thing about this emergency call box, it's solar powered, it's self-powered, it connects. It doesn't matter if the networks go down, it's still going to work, and it connects right to the 911 center, which is really important. So this one we're seeking approval of tonight. And Diane, I appreciate the aesthetic issues. We're not trying to make it ugly, but we want to make sure people see it. Maybe we can paint the bollards a pretty color or something so they blend. I don't know. But there's going to be a blue light and stuff like that, so people could see that this is a call box, right? So and we don't want to block it with vegetation. At the same time, I understand what you're saying. The other two locations, by the way, that are under exploration, I just want Ron to, so that's a vote that I would like tonight, is just on this one call box. The other two call box potential locations are just going to be so again, if you want to do that first, that's the only action tonight. I'll have Ron just talk to you, Ron and Bill, talking about the other two locations I've identified for these emergency boxes, just for so they're socialized. We're not asking for approval for those tonight. We just want people to think about them a little bit in their location.
Do we have a cost for that, Chris? Because I know this is ARPA funding.
This is $9,500. It's a really low cost.
Okay.
And this is, by the way, we were talking about running the cellular network, and as Ron talked about expanding on it, that was going to cost $100,000 or more. This is a cheap money, and it's super. This is the most public safety thing we've been able to do at that beach in a long time. So we're very excited about it.
I move we approve the Black Rock Beach emergency call box.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. A roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean Haley Dippledy.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Harry Thompson, aye.
And if Ron and Bill could just thank you, by the way, thank you all.
This is the in government. You ask, we get it done.
There you go.
We're very efficient tonight. Yeah, Chris, want to go over
If
the
Ron
other
and Bill could just
locations?
kind of socialize the other location, just so people know what we're talking about.
I don't know if you have the ability to give me to share my screen. I can actually show you the map.
Yeah, we can let you. It should let you. Let's see. Hold on. It should work for you, Ron.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so currently this is Black Rock up here in the upper left-hand corner where the push pin is.
Mm-hmm.
The entire shore down here is all dead. So what we're proposing is to add a Jerusalem Road, and I believe that's Atlantic on the corner here. And also one up in Linden Drive area. So those were the three that we felt had the greatest impact regarding population in areas that, and Bill could speak to this better than I can, but the amount of incidents that we've seen, those made sense. There's also one already at Sandy Beach. That one, unfortunately, I think there was a recent incident there and they didn't even recognize there was one there. So they probably need some signage to improve on that site as well.
Thank you. And I definitely think we'll want to get the information out about this new one at Black Rock and all of these too, so the people know that it's happening. Obviously, these are going to be on. Do you already have the exact little spots picked out, or is this just general vicinity, Ron?
These are pretty close to the spots that we've picked out, and we have communicated to conservation because some of them are within 100 feet. And I think conservation already signed off on these without what's the term?
Notice of intent.
Notice of intent.
Right. And are there any houses very close to these, like bordering on any houses, just thinking of neighbors?
Linden Drive was the only one that was really heavily populated around it. There's a center island in the middle of it, and that's where we were thinking, we have to try to remember that these are solar based so that they can't be under trees. So there was an area here we felt would work really well. And there's such a large population in this area, it made sense to occupy one of those.
Okay.
there.
Thank you. Corey.
Yep, my only comment was, I think the one on the Jerusalem Road, Atlantic Avenue makes a lot of sense because of, I see these not as people that live there using them, but people that are running, using them for people that get hurt. I mean, I see it more for people that are recreating, not so much for homeowners. And I don't live on Linden Drive, so I've got no idea, but I don't get the sensation that Linden Drive is walked as much as Jerusalem Road or biked. So having these in areas that are, used often for recreation make a lot of sense for me.
And that's a picture of the box that we intended on putting in.
Okay.
And then one of the reasons we looked at Linden and Surrey is it's just really densely populated down there. And when we have, whether it's a power failure or we lose phones or whatever else, people have no means of getting through to 911. So that'll take care of a very large population, a lot of young kids down there. So
That makes sense. I hadn't thought about that.
Well served for the families of Linden and Surrey.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Other questions, Jean?
Yeah, I was just going to remark at the last big October storm, there was a huge amount of trees down in Linden and Rustic, including across the road. So people couldn't physically leave. And, when you're at the end of a dead end, it's pretty tricky. Like everywhere in Cohasset is heavily wooded, but there's, I think a lot of exposure there. The call box itself, like the signage that says call box, this is a stupid point, but I don't know if people know would someone in an emergency be like, oh, great, there's a call box, or should we just say emergency line? You know what I mean? Because
I think we can totally customize it with, put up hatch.
Okay.
This is just a generic.
Yeah, small point. I leave it up to your discretion.
Good answer, chief.
No, it is. There'll be beautiful pastels.
Maybe we can have Joanne Chittick do a watercolor.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I said sorry. I meant to say rustic.
Some nautical theme on it. Other comments or questions on these other two areas? I mean, are we ready to take a vote on those other two tonight? Do we want to, Chris, what do you think?
Well, if I think it would, since we just put them out there, I think you'd be better off just letting people absorb it a little bit. And maybe we just want to let the folks on the drive, just be aware. And the one at Black Rod has to go in, and that's going in. I think you'd be better served just letting people get a little more feedback and see what comes back. They're fairly easy to install. And again, we'll be circling back literally on the wheelwright thing. It's involved looking for a will from 1862, by the way. So Ron has become like an investigative. He's drafted Kim Roy and a bunch of others to dig into ancient records. So we think we're okay. That said, there's still more work to be done on the. And by the way, just to be clear, that will have to go to town meeting too. So that there's a whole process for that. That'll go back to the select board first, and then they'll go through a whole other process. So there's a long way to go before any kind of tower ever gets constructed. That said, it's something we want everybody to know it's being explored. There's already something there, and it could potentially, by the way, it would pay for itself because the carriers would have to pay to use it, and it could really dramatically improve service in a way that wouldn't be terribly obtrusive. So that said, we'll circle back again as soon as you're all ready about the other locations.
Okay, well, Diane did offer her yard, so don't forget that.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to use our new communications director, whatever his official name is, to communicate with the impacted neighbors, so they'll know that it's coming. And I think that's a very, very good thing for all types of projects. So we avoid a situation where we've done all the work and people come out of the woodwork because they really didn't understand it. So we have a communications set up for this that we approved for exactly this. So
Yep.
Let's use it right now.
His name is Justin. He's great. You're all
Yep.
gonna meet him in a minute. Diane.
No, I don't know that we need to take a vote, but I definitely think if, we can shake our heads that we definitely want you to pursue other avenues for these call boxes. The 2 locations seemingly being, great. I live between the Black Rock and the proposed Atlantic Jerusalem, so that makes me happy. And I would also recommend, just based on some public input over the past couple of weeks on another matter, that, when we do have the locations, that we post those on the agenda specifically. So on this particular agenda, we have Black Rock Beach. That's great. But I do think if we're going to put one on Linden Drive or on the corner, that we do that so we can properly notice the public. But I think it's great. I think it's needed.
Wonderful. All right. Any further comments or discussion on the call box issues? Chris, any final thoughts on this? Okay.
No, again, thank you, Ron and Bill, and for all the work on this, and thank you, members of the board, for the Black Rock support, and we'll hope to get that installed as quickly as we can.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. This is exciting progress.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Next on the agenda, the Town Hall Building Committee needs for us to vote to approve CM at risk. I don't know if anyone was joining us from there. No, Michelle is. Go ahead, Michelle.
So you did approve this a while back, but there was specific language given to us by legal counsel that would be helpful in our application process to the OIG. So if
I've got
you
the
could
language.
make a motion.
I have it too. Corey, do you have it?
I have it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I move that the select board confirm their support for pursuing the construction manager at risk delivery method pursuant to general laws, chapter 149A for the town hall project.
Thank you, Corey. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion here? All right. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Corey Evans, aye.
Jeannie Haley Dipple.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Harry Thompson, aye. All right. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to an exciting part of our meeting, our select board goals update. As a reminder to everyone watching, each year the select board sets goals that we all are going to work on and that we charge our town manager and staff to be working on. And tonight we are going to have updates on our communication goal, our zoning study goals, and kind of public facilities capital plan goals. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know this is an exciting moment to meet our new communications guy, Justin, too, and I'm going to let you introduce him, and Justin, you can introduce yourself too, but go for it.
So thank you, Carrie. So an update on 3 topics tonight: communications, zoning, and then infrastructure capital planning. Have Justin Schreier with us tonight, who will kick us off, and we'll give a presentation as to some of the amazing things that he's already done and some of the work that's planned. And then Lauren Lind will give us an update on where zoning is. And then Michelle will give we'll touch on based on some of the major planning for some major capital going on, with an understanding there's more to come. There's obviously a lot more work to be done to plan the bigger picture, and that we expect will happen soon. The beginning will happen soon. The goal of improving communication is something that we talked about, and it's taken multiple facets. Work on the website continues. That's an ongoing project. In fact, I got an update on that today. There's some really exciting work being done that I think make that a much better and more useful tool. There was a big conversation about improving access on social media during COVID. We brought on the public relations firm. We did a lot more work communicating. We did videos for we did a number of videos this past year on a number of topics. And then it coalesced around, we really need somebody to do this full time. And we need to develop some more policies. So that culminated with the hiring of Justin Schreier, who's with us tonight, and who I'm excited to have present to you some of the updates, which I think will give an exciting show the potential that we now have, the tools that we now have to do some great communication. So welcome, Justin, and the floor is yours.
Go for it, Justin.
Chris, thank you. Good evening, select board members. I hope everybody's having a wonderful evening. Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen here. All right. So the town of Cohasset Communications, the mission and goals to successfully inform, educate, promote, engage, and increase communications in the greater Cohasset community through the use of social media, multimedia reports, press releases, graphics, and more. And I am excited to be here. I did read over some of the goals that the select board does have. I want to start with emergency communications, townwide communications, resident outreach and external, townwide communications, resident support, and internal communications. And I have a much more detailed document that I had sent out to everybody just a short time ago. And I look forward to working with you all. But I just want to give you a quick example. But first, I'm going to start here with some insights that I've taken from both Facebook and from both Instagram as well. If you kind of look up into the upper left-hand corner of your screen, we've got the last 28 days. This is actually when I started, April 11th to May 8th. So far, we've reached about 21,360 people. That's up about 958%, which is great. We have about 4,500 post engagements. We're up about more than 600%, which is wonderful. And our page likes have increased as well. If you look to the middle of your screen, you'll see where Facebook can actually break it down by age and by also gender. And then to the right-hand side, it also takes a look at Instagram followers, and it can break that down by age and gender as well. We've got about 72% of women who follow our page or who like our page, and about 27% of men. And then for Instagram, about 76% of women and about 24% of men. And then finally, if we move over to some of the insights for Instagram, we have reached about 522 accounts. That's up 55% in just the last 30 days, which is very, very exciting. Accounts engaged, we're up 329%, which is fascinating. And we have built upon our total followers, which I would like to do for both Facebook and for both Instagram as we continue to progress. I'm also managing the police, their Facebook page, as well as their Twitter page as well. Move along here. I just want to give a couple of examples of very different communications projects that I've worked on over the last several weeks. The first one being Chief Sylvia and his many, many years of service to the town of Cohasset. I worked on about 3-minute and 30-second piece that is up on YouTube. That was more of I like to say a chronicle style piece, a longer form piece where I spoke to the chief a little bit about his last 40 years. I want to move on here to some Facebook Lives, which is another way to really engage folks. We did a Facebook Live the other day at the South Shore Eco Fest. It went very, very well. It was about a 5-minute or so of Facebook Live, but that's another way to get residents engaged and keep them informed. And then we want to go to something drastically different. We had a 19-year-old who was missing and endangered who was found safe, which was wonderful. During that time, I jumped on the police department's Facebook page and I kind of took off the hat of townwide communications and put on the hat of the emergency communications person. So I updated the police Facebook, Twitter, town Facebook, and Instagram story, and that we were able to get that information out to news organizations both locally and throughout the state. And we were able to get a recognition, and the police were actually able to find that individual safe just a few hours later, which is great. So I hope to work on a large number of different projects, kind of wearing different hats for different responsibilities. And I look forward to working with the board, and I look forward to working with the many different committees and the residents here in the town of Cohasset. I'm excited to be here, and I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Justin. That was wonderful. I'm trying to decide if the acoustics are going to work. We're in the same room right now. I think you
Yeah,
had over.
sorry. I'm a loud person.
Do you want to? I can either come over there or you can come over here.
Come on.
I'm coming over. Coming over to Justin. Who has a question to get him started? Jean or Diane? Diane, you're muted.
Here I am. I just want to say thank you. I mean, this is great. And, you know, there's only upward possibilities in terms of getting the message out. And just, you know, another like fourth bullet is what I just mentioned. I do think we all need to do a better job. At some point, trying to make all of our agendas look similar, and make sure that we're, you know, using language kind of consistently through the different committees about what can be anticipated at board meetings. But that's for the future. Welcome aboard and thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Jean. She can't hear me.
Yes, thank you, Justin. I appreciate the presentation. And one thing that I wanted to touch upon, which I think is probably the core of what the town needs vis-a-vis communications as well, is we get a lot of citizen requests in all different directions. We have inbound, we have outbound. So you're talking about outbound, but we have a lot of inbound. And one thing that I think is a huge issue is our website. I cannot state this enough. If we don't have a new website that's significantly changed and different by the end of this year, we've all failed. I'm just going to say that, because we really do need to get on top of this. I know we've been talking about this for years, but this is it. This is now. This is the year. And apart from, I think what we need to do with that inbound communication too is embed that into our website. So what I specifically mean, and we can talk more specifics about this, is have intake forms for people that need help, have intake forms for committee members that need assistance or support, because we have a ton of volunteers working in all different directions. And then we need to have that information centralized and then delegated. And we need to see the trends behind that information. If we have 1,000 people asking for a paving schedule, that is a trend, an indicator that we, the select board, needs to be mindful of, including outbound communications, right? And so in the government agency that I work for, this is something that we thought a lot about when creating the agency and the intake forms that we used. And this is something that I really think that Cohasset needs. I think in addition to that, on our website, we also need, and I'm not going to go into like all of what we need because we need a lot, but I think to Diane's point, in terms of agenda and information consistently laid out for the boards and the committees with respect to specificity of the items, and also everything that we get, including your plan, we need to have it online on the website. All the information should be publicly posted, maybe attached to the agenda. And this is something I think that board leadership can talk about going forward too. But I do think that's a critical part of communications in terms of not only getting the word out there, but for people who want more information, more specifics, making that easily accessible, for people reaching out to us saying, hey, this was a great, tweet, but I need to understand the specifics of this thing that's going to affect my property, because that's when people get really engaged, right? When it's a thing that's really going to affect them, that they deeply care about, that's what local politics is about. And so I think that we need to do outbound for sure. Obviously, we know we need to do a lot there, but the inbound to me is equally as important, and finding, the right ways to channel people and to help them get the information that they need immediately when they're asking for it, through a much better organized website and information, sort of out there, easily accessible, where you shouldn't need to do a public records request for anything that we get, that the select board gets. That should all be out there. There's no question in my mind. If there's PII in it, it should be redacted as soon as we get it in our packets and put online. And there should really be no question about that. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because I think that's a critical part of the communications plan. And you know, that's the thing that people remember too. I think they like the videos, but they also remember when they reach out and they don't get the information they need specific to their issue.
And so I just want to mention that real quick. That is also a big part of what I'm going to be working on. I had sent that out in a detailed memo just a few minutes ago to you all. And we actually met the website redesign team with Chris and some other folks. We met this afternoon to continue working on that. So that is a work in progress, and that is something that we are actively working on at this moment.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm putting it out there too, because I know a lot of people are into that. And so.
Yep, no, you're right.
Out loud.
Website is a huge problem. It looks like it's 25 years old. And also too, just even making payments on the website, it's clunky. All right, Jack.
Yeah, I really want to also agree strongly with Jane. When I was at Concom, and I don't know, that was 3, 6, 8, 9 years ago, we recognized that everything that we had to deal with was public information. People should be able to easily learn the status of everything, whether it impacted them directly or not. So the time has come to get this done. Citizens deserve and want this information, and it should be in a very easily understood and referenced format. So I think this is an absolute priority, and I think, Justin, you got your hands full, but I think you're going to get the complete support of the community. It needs to be done, and let's get it done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Diane?
I just want to use this as an opportunity to talk about what we're going to be doing next month, which is appointing new people to committees and other things. And I think that it might not be fully within your purview, Justin, but just something for us all to think about is a lot of information gets out into the community from people that are serving on the various boards and committees. So ensuring that they're, appropriately trained and integrated into the committee that they're on, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of that is important to kind of this ecosystem of communications that we have. And I'm putting it out there. We really are looking forward to finding people to serve on our many, many boards and committees, because it's so important that they do so. And we'll do everything we can to find ways of supporting them. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Chris.
Just to echo the follow-up. So, Justin just gave you some highlights. He's done a number of other communication things, a lot actually in the last couple of weeks. One of them was a video on how to access the Permitize website. And that's up on the Facebook page, which makes the entire permitting process transparent. So anyone can at home say, hey, what's going on at 41 Highland Ave? And they can type it in and Justin give a little video on how to make it work. So we're going to try to push more of those things out to make the website more functional, right? So if you have a question, the goal is you should be able to find the information out fairly simply. Ron's also built this amazing public portal, which we got a grant for, and that's all going to be integrated as well. So people should be able to search and find tons of things like not just the minutes. I mean, obviously minutes of committees and agendas, but as has already been pointed out, other information, right? We want to make things as easily accessible as possible, and I think I'm excited that having Justin, who can live this now every day in a way that none of us could before, is already starting to make a lot of progress on this. And I'm excited that we will see some real concrete steps. But as I say that, there's other things. I mean, we couldn't feature all of it tonight, but take a look at the memo he's prepared. There's a lot more in there. But there's other things that he's done. Like, again, that little video on just how to access Permitize, which is great. And there's going to be more of that. I mean, the goal is to make the website more functional like that. So you can click a little video. How do you apply for a building permit? Click a little video. What's the Alternative Energy Committee? And one of the things we're actually hoping to preview too is more information on what the select board's doing. And so we're looking to do more of that in the coming weeks. So look for more. Look for more soon. As all of you point out, there's a lot to do. So that said, I'm very excited that we're on the path to making progress.
Thanks, Chris. I saw Corey's hand and then Jean.
feedback was a little crazy there. Yeah, no, just I think that video that you made, Justin, is kind of a good example of it's great to make content, but we also have to get eyeballs. I mean, I didn't see the video, and I mean a lot. So, and I run into this too. I make videos, but people don't see them. And one thing that we talked about at the beginning of this is having a strategy of how, after we create information, how we disseminate it. So I'm looking forward. I know your background is getting stuff out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing your impact because there's so much work going on inside that building that no one knows about, and getting a system that's repeatable and maximizes the impact of what you're doing is going to be very valuable. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and Justin, I just muted you real quick because the feedback is weird. Jean, go ahead.
One thing that the school committee does very effectively is every week they send out their agenda ahead of time to the entire parent population. So that you're probably talking 2/3 of Cohasset. And so the information is there, whether you choose to open your email or not. And I think that the select board would likely benefit from probably doing something similar, and also doing highlights of other, committees that are coming up in this upcoming week. Like we have the field study forum coming up on May 16th. That's probably a point of interest to many people. But, there's a lot of people not on Facebook. There's a lot of people that are, not looking at town Instagram. But the school committee also draws a huge amount of people oftentimes to their meetings. And I think that might be the nature of the committee, but I think it's also because every week they proactively reach out to people and say, hey, here's what's going on for this week upcoming in government if you want to get involved on this front. And so that's a suggestion that we might want to think about. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was Cohasset 143. This is a pretty popular website that a lot of people use, including select board members. All of us have been on it. The select board has to be incredibly careful when we're doing anything relating to town government on 143 in light of open meeting law, as all of our lawyers have instructed us with respect to open meeting law deliberations. And so I think we need to think that one through a little more deliberately too. I think it is appropriate for the town to be posting information in a very sort of timely way, because 143, for better or for worse, is the place that most Cohasset residents who are online are getting their information. That is my like pretty consistent feedback that I get. And so anyway, food for thought, but I do think that that is something that we should think about.
And just to springboard off that, I think the future board needs to be having this discussion about the 143 Facebook page. Again, I think the reason it's become so popular is because we haven't had as much local news. We haven't had as much town communication maybe as we should have. And the way to combat, I think, this one catch-all that I don't think is always positive or accurate in terms of the information it disseminates, I think there needs to be a little bit of pushback against that. And I think the town needs to maybe have its own official Facebook page that is more active, that maybe can help to offset so many people relying on one Facebook page that no one official is running. You know what I mean? We obviously have to utilize all these different platforms and we have to reach different audiences, but I do think we have to be careful because there's a lot of misinformation and stuff out there that isn't facts and isn't really, the type of communication that I think the town should be representing. So I think it's a bigger discussion that needs to be had in the future. Justin, you can respond. I'll mute myself.
No, I agree with everything that's been said here tonight. I am working on combining a list of emails right now. I know that was something that the board had asked me to start working on in terms of different email lists from all different types of departments and really consolidating that and streamlining that. And that could hopefully help get some more of that information out as well. Because as we know, not everybody views Facebook, not everybody checks their email, not everybody is on Twitter. Hopefully building up different ways to reach people. I know that's very important to me as well. It's not just video. It's not just creating graphics. It's not just press releases. It could be mailers as well, because I have friends and I know some folks who may not necessarily be online all the time as well. So it's streamlining and finding different ways to reach different people.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, our goal is to reach all populations in town, right? Those that are on social media, those that are not, all ages, through all mediums. So, and I think Justin's already being really creative. I will say, I've just noticed such an increase in energy and activity since Justin has arrived. I think he is just what we need in terms of personality and talent and skills. So I'm very excited about how Justin's going to help the future of this communication goal. Jean, do you still have your hand up?
One last thing that I'd like to just to have my select board members consider as we move forward into the next year. I think this is all great, and we should talk about all this, including pros and cons for all different channels. One channel we haven't talked about as much, I think, is just a good old-fashioned in-person interaction between the select board and the residents. And think about it, but I think it would be great if the select board could have like open hours once a month at like town hall, maybe coffee and donuts on a Saturday morning, people to stop by, talk to us. We could post it as an open meeting if we needed to, if more than, 3 of us wanted to be there. So anyway, I think we should think about it, but I think it would be good to get out in the community as, cohesive unit to just also update people who want to stop by and talk to us and, just sort of do the good old fashioned face-to-face.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on that, Chris?
I have to say that
Go ahead, Jack.
I'm sorry. I just have to say Jean has a very good point. Obviously I'm doing a lot of face-to-face right now for obvious reasons, but what is very interesting is when people have a chance to talk to you, they'll bring up stuff that perhaps they wouldn't necessarily want to post online. You also really, as a public official, get a feeling for what people are really concerned about. And I think having a coffee thing once a month is wonderful. People want to know, and when we become officials, that's part of the thing that we agreed to. And also, I think some of the members of boards and committees may wish to also join. I think it's a great idea.
All right. Any other final thoughts on this? Go ahead, Justin.
No, I just want to thank the board. I'm excited to work with all of you, and I want to thank Chris Senior for taking me on, and I'm excited to work with everyone and to really keep residents engaged and informed. So thank you.
I gotta say, I'm already tired watching Justin run in and out all the time. I know he's like, I think he's like keeping Seabird in business all by himself at this point. But he's been out with the fire department. He's been out with the police department. He was with the town hall building committee folks the other day. He's been everywhere. And it's been great. It's been great to have someone whose focus is just getting out, getting information out, and getting information in. So again, I want to thank the board for the support for the position. And for all the collaboration we're going to continue to do on this. And by the way, one of the things we're going to expand is the farmers market, which I hope you will get the official application for at the next meeting. We're going to have we've had a table there with the library. We're going to do a regular town table at the farmers market, and we'll rotate people who are there. So that's another vehicle. And again, just having the building open has been great. I mean, there are regularly people who just pop in, and if I have time, we just chat, right? And sometimes I can help them, and sometimes I can't. That said, just having the building open has been great. So, but again, as farmers market's coming up soon, that's a really popular time, and we're going to play a more active role at that. This is just a very low key way for people just to stop by, to talk, and to exchange information. So, lots coming. So again, thank you, Justin, and much more to come. The next big conversation that's been had was about zoning and the zoning study, and for a hot off the press update, Lauren Lind
Hi, Lauren, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Lauren Lynn. I'm the Planning and Zoning Director, and I will also be sharing a brief PowerPoint with you to update you about where we stand with our comprehensive zoning bylaw rewrite process. So I'm going to pick up where we left off. The last time we spoke about this was actually we had a joint meeting in November of 2021 with the Select Board, Planning Board, Master Plan Implementation Committee, and the Zoning Bylaw Working Group. We spoke about, you actually heard from myself and Katie Dugan, who's the chair of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. We gave a presentation about a comprehensive zoning bylaw analysis and a redraft process, what that entails, and also sort of what fed into this sort of coming to a conclusion that this was something that we should embark on based on a lot of the themes that were identified in our master plan. We spoke about, I gave first a presentation about the principles of zoning, our Cohasset zoning history, an overview of the process of what might entail. And then Katie Dugan at that time gave you a bit more detail about what the goals and priorities were that came out of the 2019 master plan, what the zoning bylaw working group of the master plan's charge was, the work examples, and sort of the major themes that have been identified. And at that time, we had a discussion about sort of what the major themes and goals were coming out of this process. Again, just to sort of, for folks who may be listening and may not have participated in the November meeting, the purpose of a zoning rewrite is really to do a comprehensive reorganization and cleanup. It can be an opportunity to incorporate goals and themes and new sort of planning zoning principles, a lot of which we had about 20 goals and strategies in our 2019 master plan that were identified that gave us opportunity to incorporate. So, you know, key components of any sort of process that you entail in this type of rewrite would be community engagement, consensus building, and compromise. A lot of these sort of policy related subjects require consensus building and compromise. You know, a lot of things, they're not always an easy answer, but we know we need a lot of public engagement and robust discussion to get to that point. We need transparency and communication, which I know, as we all just discussed, is a big theme. You know, and it really relies on good advice from your legal counsel and clear expectations on an outcome. This is a slide that you may remember from Katie Dugan's portion of the presentation. Cohasset, it's been 35 plus years since we had our last major rewrite of the Cohasset zoning bylaws. The best practice that we've learned from other communities and planning profession, you know, peers, is that, you know, every decade this should be done. So we are sort of behind the 8 ball on a comprehensive rewrite, and we know just based on the sort of piecemeal approach from the past couple of 35 years, every time there is an amendment to the zoning bylaws, it's like, if you think about it, it's like a patchwork quilt. And at this point, there are sections that may be outdated, that need rearranging, you know, and then there's also this opportunity to incorporate critical changes that result from goals that are identified in our master plan. Some of these high area topics that have been identified are residential zoning, housing options, harbor zoning, land alteration and preservation of open space, and historic district and preservation opportunities are some of the key subjects that have come out. So at the time, we proposed to embark on, you know, let's take this. It's a big project, and we knew it was a lot to push uphill at once. But we knew at the time that, you know, we know this is a project that needs undertaking. So let's give it our go. And we knew that at this point it would involve public forums and community input. We knew we would need external consultant to help the zoning bylaw working group with this task. And then ultimately this would require town meeting adoption for as any zoning change might. At the time, in November of 2021, we showed you this sort of timeline and scale, in that we plan to start drafting a request for proposals to go out for the comprehensive zoning rewrite. We planned at the time to issue it in January. We would leave it open for a month, interview and select, and start a process in March, with ultimate goal of annual town meeting 2023 for a zoning adoption. Since then, what we've done is we kept on track with November, December drafting RFP, issuing for comments and circulating amongst the different boards that were involved. And then we released the RFP in January. We actually found that in January, we had a pretty low response rate. So we elected to extend the response deadline by a month to allow for additional respondees. So, you know, we then, you know, pushed it out to January, February was the time that the RFP was open. In March, we received one bid on the RFP from Stantec, and we conducted an interview there. the review committee found that they brought a lot to the table. It was really interested in what they were bringing. But at the same time, it sort of seemed that we were at a point that what they were proposing may fit certain scenarios and topics that we were interested in, but that the overall rewrite, it didn't seem like a perfect fit. So what the committee decided was, rather to then award the bid, it might be best to bifurcate the process. So where we are now, this says April, but leading into May, is sort of planning for next steps. And what the group has, and again, I want to caveat this with, this is all sort of still in play. We're having conversations as to exactly what the next steps are. But the group that reviewed the RFP bids thought that we could do a reorganization and redraft component with our town council, continuing to maintain that intent to get to annual town meeting with a 2023 schedule goal to do a rewrite. This is the reorganization, the updating of outdated references, inclusion of pictures, images, things that make our zoning bylaws just easier to understand and manage. And then in addition, at the same time, in a parallel track, we could embark on planning and zoning analyses with the planning consultants, which Stantec was the bid respondent, who offered a lot of great skill and expertise, the opportunity to conduct sort of build out analysis and help us do analysis, public engagement, correspondence, and outreach on two particular focus areas that we know in our recent discussions are sort of percolating to the top of our attention. One of them being the 3A corridor and the response to the MBTA multifamily zoning legislation. As we discussed, there's still a lot to unpack, and we're in a bit of a holding pattern with the state while we await their response to the draft regulations. But at the same time, we do know that regardless of what happens with the next set of the draft recommendations, we do need to begin to study this and prepare to respond to this. So this is something, it's an area that we know we need to put some attention on, and that we could use this expertise from a planning consultant that could help us with the public engagement, doing the visioning, the analysis, helping us anticipate, what's feasible, what do we have here, and what might be a potential option for us to consider in the future. The second piece of this is Cohasset Village. I'll note that in the master plan, the village revitalization, looking at this was noted. It's become even more evident in terms of following after the pandemic, looking at, how do we help our small businesses recover from the pandemic? How do we do sort of robust economic development in our downtown? In addition, with our Elm Street working group work, a lot of what we heard from folks and people of the public were that they were really interested on the village. It seemed like the next logical step. And we do have sort of earmarked funds from the state to work on this. So with that funding in place and knowing that we have a lot of interest for multiple reasons in the village, these two items, it seems like the next logical step to embark on further planning and consultant work in here. With this, we can also identify subsequent phases for zoning redraft based on master plan goals and different sort of topics that come up. Like I said, we can maintain a schedule for 2023 for the reorganization, for the total overhaul, but the sort of policy and decision-making points, we know we need to have some more time and community engagement on consensus building. We can identify a timeline for subsequent upcoming town meetings at that time. So the next steps that we've identified is sort of, like I mentioned, a bifurcation of the process, is a zoning rewrite with town council, leaning into town council to give us a dedicated scope of work to help our zoning bylaw working group work through the nitty gritty of how we reorganize the existing bylaws as they are to function more, efficiently and be better for our community to work through. And then the second would be to focus areas for planning and zoning consultant work, particularly the 3A corridor and MBTA multifamily zoning analysis, as well as Cohasset Village. All of this process for all of the above initiatives will include a series of public dialogues and forums to be held, will include working group meetings that will be open to the public, and will involve regular communication between boards and committees. So what I've sort of lined out here for you is sort of what you can anticipate as a timeline. The top portion that you see is that zoning rewrite with town council. What we anticipate would be throughout the month of May, we will complete a scope of work with our town council about the zoning redraft and reorganization. We would, from June to December, work with the zoning bylaw working group to redraft, redefine, begin our public engagement. January and March, we really would kick it into overdrive, preparing for that annual town meeting preparation. we need to have these articles of intent. We need to have a preliminary update to the select board before we begin with planning board public hearings that are required for any zoning changes. And then, April through June, depending on when annual town meeting was scheduled, we would continue public engagement and continue through the process of typical warrant process, attending select board and advisory committee meetings for warrant recommendations, ultimately leading into a annual town meeting of 2023. The second portion of this, which I'm going to just reiterate that this is very tentative because this is all this is what we could imagine a timeline looking like, but we need to confirm this first. You could anticipate from May to June of this year, working through a scope of work of what this looks like, what we are looking to do, specifically the focus areas of these two projects. From July to the end of the calendar year, we would work with this consultant. We would plan to assess existing conditions and goals, identify opportunities, tools, best practices, conduct build-out analysis if and when appropriate. And then, of course, as I bold here, public engagement, which is ongoing and diverse methods. We know more than ever in the past 2 years that people are interested in participating in a variety of methods, whether it's in person, hybrid, surveys, public, social media. We have to expand and diversify what we're doing. While I'm really excited to be able to partner with Justin on this, we also could use a professional planning consultant to help us take that to the next level and sort of act at times as sort of a moderator when it comes to some of these items may be hot button issues. And, we need consensus building around that. So that's sort of what we work through, if and when there's zoning changes to come of these studies. January, February of 2023, we could expect draft recommendations or deliverables for review, presentation to follow shortly thereafter. And then really what is sort of left to be determined is whether there are zoning articles or town meeting action that come out of those deliverables. At that point, we would plug those into coordination with the different groups and to plug into a town meeting schedule to identify something that would be appropriate. So this is just, like I said, this is an update to give you sort of where we have left off. Since we last spoke, we did conclude the process for the RFP. The bid was not awarded, but at this point, we do feel that we have a path forward that still gets us to our outcome. It just seems like we have an opportunity to divide and conquer the skill sets a bit, still maintain our track to get a reorganized zoning bylaw that works more efficiently, but also take an opportunity to do a deeper dive into these subject matter areas and locations in town. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm interested in hearing all of your thoughts, and I'm here to answer questions that you may have.
Thank you, Lauren. That was fantastic. I think Jean had her hand up first.
Well, thanks, Lauren. That was helpful to hear that update, including I appreciate the emphasis on communication and consensus building. I think that there's probably a threshold step that we need to build into this entire process when we think about everything from the MBTA corridor, Cohasset Village, and then zoning rewrite. And I think that step is, what fundamentally are we attempting to do? And when I say, what are we attempting to do? When we talk about the village, for example, and revitalization can mean many things. Are we attempting to correct what many people see is a parking constraint within the village, including for the merchants? And are we really focused on, the zoning bylaws that relate to the fact that you can develop condos and essentially use, overflow public parking that has, created the place that we're at right now? And so I think having more specificity on what the general direction is of the group, I think would be helpful. And I think that's particularly true too with the zoning rewrite overall, because I will say, yes, the MBTA corridor is something we're going to have to deal with. The village has, I can show you a, village revitalization plan from 2005 that I got when I first came to the planning board. This is a perennial issue, but the thing that strikes me residents are really, really concerned about is the residential zoning and how we thoughtfully address that. And so I think putting that time in upfront to figure out what fundamentally are the goals that we're aiming for, because when you write regulations and when you do bylaw changes, you don't do them in a vacuum, right? You're aiming towards a goal or a result at the end of the day, whether it's through ministerial corrections and updates or big rewrites. And so I think trying to sit down with the group and really sort of level setting on that and making sure we're all generally on the same page. And if we're not, spotting that at the beginning is really, really important to make sure that all of this intense time, energy, and talent is being spent in the right direction, given the intense amount of interest in this subject throughout Cohasset.
All right, thank you, Jean. Lauren, I don't know if you have any follow-up after that or.
Certainly, I agree. I certainly think that it's important to have consensus building at the beginning also to know that we're embarking on the right path. In terms particularly of the village, one of the things that have been a topic of conversation has been, like you said, parking. That is something, as I mentioned, it was like a logical next step. We had a stakeholder meeting at one point in the Elm Street Corridor Working Group process with folks in the village. And that was the next, it was like, well, okay, but what about parking in the village? That was something we kept on hearing. We know that's something that people are interested in. Another thing that I've sort of pointed out, in addition to sort of helping, how could we help the businesses? Something that I have sort of flagged is a potential to explore zoning of a sort of, you can imagine a fringe boundary. We have a lot of hard stops at the edges of our business district that abut against a residential neighborhood. This is an opportunity to explore potentially sort of a fringe zoning, whereas you have maybe like a tailor down of what's, instead of a hard stop between districts, these are opportunities to explore this. And I think we've heard enough people give attention to the village needs attention. So it's, that's sort of where the village component came out of this. And it's an opportunity to have dialogues, to take a baseline and think about what we might introduce. So that's why I'm saying there's a lot of caveats about like, whether we need town meeting action that come out of this, but what could we do that whether it's policy, zoning, parking studies, there's a lot that goes into the village that I think if we're going to look at these things, let's look at it comprehensively rather than piecemeal. So that's sort of the village component of it. And then of course, the portion about the MBTA multifamily, that's something that we know we need to address. And in addition, I think there's been a long time sort of, we could take a look at more progressive comprehensive planning for the 3A corridor. Something that I think would be a great opportunity to introduce are design guidelines for the 3A corridor. We don't have that right now. We have that in the village.
Point. That's a great point.
Thank you. That is something that I think would be a great opportunity to take a look at while we look at this at the same time is how do we introduce things like this? So let's, it's like, we know these areas are of particular interest for a multitude of reasons. So let's take a holistic look at this.
Diane, then Jack.
I'm going to draw a bridge. This is not what I put my hand up for, but between this discussion and planning, and I think you're taking the right approach, Lauren, and bifurcating this and communication, because a few people had stopped me, or I was talking to a few residents a couple weeks ago, and they said, are we discussing the residential definitions, Article 6 from special town meeting at annual town meeting, because I didn't vote on it, or I wasn't prepared to vote on it because the case at that point at town meeting was, at special town meeting, it was made that these are the kinds of things we only talk about at annual town meeting. Notice my sarcasm, but that really was something that a lot of people felt was the right thing. So they expected they were going to see that. They're for it. They want to make sure it happens. So I think two things. One is, I think those residential definitions, I hope, are still part of the conversations in terms of this, whatever we're going to bring forth in the future. But also, it might be a nice opportunity for Justin and the team to kind of do a sort of a news article on the results of town meeting and kind of summarize some of the decisions that were made. Forget my Article 6 thing because we've missed the boat on that, but just to summarize the things that passed and why they passed, or, in this case, I think we passed every article, which is great, but it's good to wrap it up and kind of put it in plain language for people to summarize what decisions were made at town meetings, so that it kind of creates a narrative that brings us to the next point at which we're making decisions. So anyway, I, as somebody that lives in a private way that's been dug up completely, the road is trashed because of 4 new homes. And, you know, we're going to end up paying to get it repaved. And there's 5 houses on my street. So
You muted yourself, Diane.
I'm doing the math. There's 5 plus the new one. So, but it really, you know, that's something like that Article 6, had it passed, would have created a very different scenario for, you know, small private ways like my own. So thanks.
Good point, Diane. Jack? Then
Yeah,
Pete.
actually, very good point, Diane. One of the, having been, you know, a liaison to the zoning bylaw, it is very, very difficult. But, you know, I've done a lot of these things when my office was in Boston, and there are unintended consequences and there are intended consequences. But when you change things, people get upset. And there is a significant development lobby who wants to develop, and there are people who've had chunks of land for a long period of time and they want to maximize the value. Overall, the thought of most people, the consensus in Cohasset, is that Cohasset is kind of already at its, whereas it's as dense and crowded as we can be. The carrying capacity of the land has really probably been exceeded. And so we start running into these problems. And the other problems is that some of the things we want to do, we cannot do them, because if we do them, we don't become a small town like Cohasset anymore. We become a completely different kind of semi-urbanized, you know, entity. So this is where we have to decide what we're going to do. And it is very difficult. The reason we did not have that on this town meeting agenda is because there was really no consensus, and we did need to get a comprehensive rewrite of some of the technical legal issues. And Tom Callahan has done tremendous work on that, and the town owes him a great deal of gratitude. But this is one of those problems, and we have to understand something. We are not going to have a downtown like Hingham because we have 8,000 people, and we're not. And we want to have a shopping mecca in which large numbers of people are going to come in and shop for an afternoon in our village? And where do they park? And does that change the nature of the village? I suspect the people in town really don't want that. The town that I grew up in many years ago had a charming downtown, and now it's, you know, it's packed. So these are the types of things that we need to look at, and it's very difficult. But I think the consensus of the town is to maintain the character of Cohasset and its small town charm.
All right, Jean?
I would just suggest to my fellow select board members that this is an issue of sufficient importance that we should really have it on the agenda at least once a month to track the progress, to have these discussions with Lauren. I think it's very helpful to hear even preliminary thoughts about, you know, for example, urban fringe, you know, approach, which could be interesting. There's probably pros and cons to it, but it could be interesting. And a part of that is also to bring visibility to the ongoing work of the zoning bylaw working group, because a lot of people do care. They ask us about it. They ask us about, you know, what happened to that article, which was the select board's decision and encouragement to wait until it was part of a larger zoning rewrite, for better or for worse. That's what we decided in light of a variety of factors. And so I think that it would help the group, including promoting that, you know, community consensus and visibility, for us to check in on a monthly basis to make sure that, you know, we're constantly sort of checking in, and also providing you with support too, if you get, you know, sort of trapped on an issue, or you need more money for something, like we need a new traffic study. We know we need this for the village. The 2015 one is outdated at this point, given the traffic counts. And so That's something that we didn't plan for necessarily, but I could see us going back to MAPC for that. And so anyway, I just think that, this is probably a best practice if we really care and we want to continue to promote community discussion and possibly disagreement. But it's probably all positive. So that way it remains on the top of everyone's mind.
Thank you, Jean. Any other thoughts on this? I know we have one more goal to go over. All really important discussions. Lauren, thank you for your hard work on this presentation and every day dealing with this issue. It's of great importance, as you can tell, and I think this is a really good update.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time, and I'm sure I'll see you very soon. Take care.
Lauren.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren.
All right, 2 goals down.
Just 2 minor ones, right? We just,
Yeah.
flying through them.
Small ones. We could have had separate meetings on all of these goals, we know.
Yeah, exactly. So the third big goal that the select board set out was talking about major infrastructure planning. And if Michelle will pop back up on the screen for a second. There's obviously a bigger conversation to be had. I do think that we're looking to start that in the next couple of, after, we go through the election cycle and the boards reorganize and figure out where they want to go. The select board has led this one, and I think still needs to be the convener. There's a lot of people at the table, the school committee, the capital budget committee, the advisory committee, master plan, the public obviously at large as well. And that said, it's important the select board actually thinks about where it wants to go and organize. I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities. I think we can look at some of our neighbors for how they've convened working groups. So I think there's definitely paths. That said, the big conversation about how we're going to kind of harmonize a 5 to 10, or probably a 10+ year major infrastructure planning is really important. That said, I wanted Michelle just to touch base on some of there's 3 major things that are moving right now, and just to touch on those a little bit. The town hall building project, the school facilities review project, and then the field study, which is we're going to publicly unveil on Monday. So if I can just get Michelle just to give us like a couple of minute update.
Sure.
Yes.
So Chris, you highlighted all of the items, but I can update you on the school building facilities committee. Their work has led to a statement of interest with the MSBA, which is moving forward nicely. The field study is complete. We've had one public forum to discuss it when it was in draft form. We're having a final public forum on the 16th at 7:30 via Zoom to hear everyone's input. I think the next step for that field study is really to think through some funding mechanisms and how we implement some of the ideas. Something that we haven't talked about though is the harbor projects. So those are major infrastructure projects that are moving forward. We have the Parker F boat ramp, we have the Government Island here. And we have an echo here. And like Chris said, the Town Hall Building Committee, they've worked for the past 2 years trying to initiate a design and work with the community on something that really does fit the community needs well. They've gone before annual town meetings, special town meetings, to keep everyone apprised of what's going on. Once again, I think we have to talk about all of these things and the funding mechanisms and prioritize what we need to move forward, because we do have that public safety building, which is extremely important to the community. There's the roads and there's IT infrastructure and there's all these wonderful capital projects that we need to think about outside of these, these large things that we've initiated this year.
No, I agree, Michelle. And again, these are ongoing discussions for all of these issues that are going to require a lot more discussion and talking in the future, but this is a good overview. All right, questions or thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
And those are just the big ones. So one of the other parallel conversations that's already happened is how do we fund just a regular capital needs? I mean, we've been talking about really big picture things, and I'm talking about, $5-10 million projects, really big things. That said, we still have to fund the annual capital plan, and it's clear that the funding plan that was come up, that was arrived at, more than a decade ago, has reached the end of its course. The community needs to think about next steps. How do we put more money into that, if just for inflation? Because that's something that we haven't had a big issue with, but it's upon us. And so that's a parallel conversation that obviously needs to take place. And some of these projects, have some of them are in their infancy, but they're all going to have impacts, and they're all the community is going to be in a far better place to plan these things out, to figure out and try to fund them and layer the funding in as it can go, then react to something failing. We've done, the facilities department is doing a great job of maintaining and managing our facilities. That said, they can't turn back the aging clock on some of them and make them magically better. They can do the very best they can to maintain them. It's definitely the time. And again, as Michelle points out, there's a lot of moving pieces. I think the field study is actually very exciting. That's a whole nother dimension that we didn't have before. That's both for the short and long-term needs of the community, from a recreational and youth and adult sense. So lots of great conversations. And again, I think this is something that I know this whole, the board, and when the board reorganizes itself in a couple of weeks, will be giving us some more direction.
Well said, Chris. Jack and then Jean.
Yeah, I think this is very important of a select board goal. And, basically what we need to do is we need to list all of the long-term major capital projects. We need to get a ballpark of the cost. Then when we put these together, and I think Chris makes a good point about there are some, I hate to say lesser capital needs, but like a new fire engine would be a lesser capital need or something like that. That's a parallel track. But for the major, very major capital things like the schools, the fields, new town hall, the decision about whether we do or do not need a public facility, fire and police. All right, now we have to put those as a select board. This is our responsibility to put them in a list, get an idea of the costs of that. And then on the second time, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to say, all right, we can fund this. Is this going to take a debt exclusion? We know from the past history that if it requires a 2.5 override, it likely will never be passed. So we need to figure out how to responsibly fund that. And then we have to match our bonding capacity with the capital needs and the cost to service that debt. Now, this is, it's something, it's actually the matrix we have to put together it's really a pretty basic matrix, but I think we have to understand that that's how we need to proceed with it and do a step by step. And then we have to let the citizens know exactly why we thought these were important, what we think they're going to cost, and how we're going to pay for them. And we're going to have, it's going to be exciting or deadly dull. But anyway, we have to do it.
All right, Jean.
I agree with Jack, and I would just suggest that some practical next steps, and I know we're moving towards this, but I just wanted to articulate a few, is in addition to the list of projects, and I would also add to that list sewer. So if we needed to do, some work relating to, let's say, the Situate Hull potential sewer project, we probably need to consider that. And microgrid too, depending on where that goes. But I think, I see it as we're really looking at 3 questions the select board needs to push forward. Who is going to be doing this work? What are they going to be doing? And when are they going to be doing it? And so when I say who, I would suggest that we consider a working group. I think that we're probably trending towards a working group. Made up of various committee members, including the select board and other key committees. And when we say, what are they doing? I think we should think about what the charge is of the group in terms of prioritizing these projects, proposing funding mechanisms, but also looking at a variety of other mechanisms for revenue. Yes, you can do debt exclusions. Cohasset actually has passed every debt exclusion that's been proposed to it in the last 20 years, with the exception of town hall. If you look at the Department of Revenue statistics that the Commonwealth keeps, look at our financial policies, which the select board has oversight of. You know, do we want to take in any suggestions, including as it relates to our capital stabilization fund? Should we be changing the math on that? And then I think we want to think about the timeline, right? When do we want to try to like push some of this work, or the beginning, like first phase of some of this work, to fall meeting? Do we want an annual? So I think as we, you know, come upon this bigger capital meeting that we're trying to get on the books in early June, that these are sort of the three key issues that we probably all want to be thinking about in terms of moving this forward. As Chris alluded to, Hingham did this. They had a sustainable budget task force that just completed its work, where they went through a very analogous process, including using Cohasset as a benchmark town based on information they pulled, and did various financial modeling in terms of how they were going to pay for different projects, as well as some budget shortfalls that they had. And so I envision us doing a similar sort of process, but perhaps with slightly different issues at play. And they looked at revenue streams too. And so Hingham's probably done a lot of work for us, because their revenue streams are likely to be ours as well, in terms of what's out there. So for those interested, I would encourage you to look at the Hingham Sustainable Budget Task Force that's done a lot of work, very recent work with Cohasset as a benchmark community, as an example of what we could be doing in the future.
Thank you, Jean. All good things here. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Michelle, thank you very much for your
Thank you, Michelle.
wearing multiple hats tonight. So thank you.
She's always great at that.
So Michelle will be part of our HR update at the next meeting. So to pivot into, because by the way, one of the big things that was not one of the goals per se, but something we did a lot of this year is human resources work, recruiting, retaining, training a top quality staff is a top priority. And this last year has seen quite a lot of retirements, just the way it worked. I think the pandemic made a lot of people rethink, do I really want to work here another year? I've been here for 34 or 35. So we had a number of retirements. So we've also had faced, just like a lot of other communities, a crunch on finding people with licenses and all. But we'll talk more about that in 2 weeks. My quick update tonight, I want to announce that the town's received a $110,000 grant from the state for winter road maintenance. They got some extra money. They distributed it based solely on road miles, and we're getting about $110,000. So obviously, I have that contract ready to sign. So it's great. So it's more money for Brian and Carl to be able to put out there. And we definitely had some road damage over the winter. I think if all of you saw the update last Friday, work on Beach Street and Atlantic have begun, Jerusalem Road, I'm sorry, Beach Street and Jerusalem Road have begun. If you have not driven on those roads, they've been milled. They're in the process of doing the resets of the water main and the sewer grates and things of that sort. So that's all happening now. The hope is that'll be repaved in the next week or two. The next big project is Sawyer, the sidewalk piece that's been approved at the end that'll allow for not only kids and all to access more safely up and down, and also residents in general to be able to get to the 3A corridor, including the Stop and Shop Plaza. The sidewalk work has begun, at least the prep work, before Sawyer Street can be redone. That work has to be done. There has to be, the Conservation Commission required permeable pavement, so a big trench has to be dug with underlying drainage, and all has to go into that before that can be sealed up. So that's ongoing. I don't expect that repaving work will be done until later in the summer. It's based on timing. So those are the two biggies that are on the list. Elm Street is still awaiting more conversations, and South Main is too, because South Main is where there's potential sewer work that could be done before we repave it. That decision has to be made to do that work. And on Elm Street, it's just a matter of finalizing what the next set of plans are. We're watching the state closely. There may be some additional money coming down from the state for a number of projects. I hope to know more in a couple of weeks on that, but we're anxiously watching. The state has a lot of extra ARPA money, and they seem to be revisiting old grant applications, which we are prominently figured on. We came in a close second on a lot of projects, so there's a chance we may get a second chance winner on some of these projects. So we're optimistic, cautiously optimistic. We might see some additional funding in the next couple of weeks. So that's that update. And just one last final thing. Carrie, you're officially retiring. This is your last meeting as chair. I want to thank you for your partnership and all that you've done for me and for the board of the committee over the last 3 years. You don't get to check, as an old boss of mine said, when you're in local government, you only get to take a timeout. There's no goodbyes.
That's fair.
So you can take a timeout, you can recharge, and then when you're ready, jump back in. But thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That's fair. And for select board comments, I will start on that note. And then we can do, let's see, Jean, Jack, Diane, then Corey. So I wanted to just start by thanking everyone for a wonderful and successful town meeting. I thought it was so great to be able to be back in the gym together. It was really nice to see people's faces again. I am really proud of all the hard work that went into it. And it was just, I think, a really great success. So thank you to everyone for all of that. You know, as I've been thinking about this being my last meeting, I always think about what Tip O'Neill said, right? That all politics is local. And I always believed in that, but I never really got it. I think until I did this job, until I was able to be part of this great community. When I moved to Cohasset, I think it was about 9 years ago now, I never expected to be on the select board. I never expected to be in a position of leadership. But as you all know, this community is special and you all welcomed me into it. And this will always be one of the greatest honors of my life to have been able to do this job. So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank my fellow board members. I want to thank Chris, all of the staff, some of whom are sitting here right now that I just adore. I am so honored to be part of this town, to be a resident of this town, but it has been a great pleasure to be on this board and to be chair of this board. And we have an election coming up Saturday, and I want to remind everyone that decisions are made by those who show up, right? So please show up on Saturday. If you can't show up on Saturday, please show up early to town hall. Our clerk will be able to help you fill out an absentee ballot. I really have so much hope for the potential of Cohasset. I very much believe in this town's future, and I'm not going anywhere, so I will still be around and part of this community. So thank you for the great honor of being on the board and for being chair, and I look forward to following this board as a regular citizen in the future. So thank you all for that. Jean, you can go next.
Well, Carrie, I wanted to thank and congratulate you for getting through a successful year as chair and also term generally. I really do appreciate all of your leadership and help as, you know, it continues to be hard in local government with the pandemic and just all of the strains that we're all feeling in so many different ways. And so I really appreciate your public service from one public servant to another. So thank you, Carrie. In terms of other comments, just again, reminder, field study forum on May 16th. And yes, Carrie's absolutely right. Vote. You want to have a say in what happens at the local level in your neighborhoods with your tax money. This is the time it matters. You got to get out there and vote. And you can contact any of us if you have questions about how, when, and where. But there's information on the town website too.
Thanks, Jean. Jack.
Well, Carrie, you will be missed. I remember when I first met you on the Common well before you ran, and we were discussing a wide range of political topics, and your engaging mind was truly delightful. So you will be missed. You know, maybe you're the smart one. You're not running for re-election, and I am, but you will be missed. You've added a tremendous amount to the community. And I want to echo your thing about if you don't show up, you're not part of the decision. And we do need everybody to show up, and we need people to pay attention. And there are many people that are now becoming interested in the boards and committees, and they see these people on our boards and committees who do a tremendous amount of decision-making and analysis and thought. And that's what makes Cohasset what it is. The character of Cohasset is the people. It's the beauty, but it is also the people. So I urge everybody to make sure that they vote. Bring your neighbors to vote. And then after you vote, remember that this is a town in which the citizens make the decisions through boards and committees. Your input is listened to. You become a decision maker. So please, join. And again, Carrie, you will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Diane.
Trying to unmute myself. I'm going to start off on the non-Carrie lane in the line. There's going to be a Mass Select Board Association webinar on June 16th that we'll all get invitations to, but it's basically going to cover the topic of hybrid, in-person, return to meetings and what's forthcoming. The special permission to have hybrid meetings or remote meetings will expire unless the legislature takes some action. And, they got a budget to pass. So who knows, on July 15th. And there's a lot of communication, a lot of talk amongst different select board members in different towns about how they've, what the select boards are doing, what other committees are doing. And it's interesting because my general feeling is I want to get back to in-person meetings. I mean, there's just nothing like decision-making and collaboration among a body when we're all in person and feeling the vibe of the room. At the same time, the fact that we've been able, those of us that, go to other meetings and are able to watch remotely or participate remotely is good. And then I was talking to a few staff members at Town Hall today about this topic, and they had differing views actually, but one of the things I didn't consider was how difficult it is with a very small staff, a relatively small staff, to man the 30-something plus committees that meet on a regular basis. And some, like Lauren, I think she said she staffs over 9 different committees, and those are really important in the hearing boards as well. So I think it's a very big conversation that we're going to have to get on top of like ASAP. But in the meantime, stay tuned for this Mass Select Board Association meeting, because I think we're going to hear experiences from all across the state and hopefully learn some best practices. And then, it's interesting, just when you make a decision not to run for re-election, you get all the platitudes and those who serve on the board that have made, put themselves up for re-election don't get the same send-off. But nonetheless, we'll figure out when to do that. But Carrie, really, it's Carrie and I worked very closely as chair and vice chair last year during the maybe the worst of times. And she was just a great partner and really got us through meetings this year quite successfully, and just has been such a tremendous advocate for the community and for local government. So it's been my honor and pleasure to serve with you, Carrie. I met Carrie when Ted Carr and I were on the select board still together, which would have been 2011, 2012, 2011, 2012 at Mr. Dooley's after it had first opened, because they got their liquor license in September 2011. And we met Carrie. She had just moved to town and she was interested in politics, and I have considered her a friend since. So I'm going to miss you on a daily basis, but I actually have written your name down next to about 4 different committees that have come up during the evening. And that's my last pitch, is really let's all do the town a favor and go out and talk to people and encourage them to serve, because it's not easy, but it's incredibly rewarding. And we got a lot of committees that could use a lot more voices on them. So that's it.
Thank you, Diane. I'm grateful for your friendship as well. All right, last but not least, Corey.
I will promise to reject any of those appointments for the next 12 months. That way, Carrie, you get a break.
Thank you.
But I want to echo obviously what all the board members have said. Carrie, we got through some amazing things this year, despite a lot of challenges. So thank you for what you've done for the town. Thank you for your passion and your energy and your just guidance. And we got some really amazing things done. And we should never forget that, we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you. On moving right along to voting stuff, Mr. Senior, could you get the hours of voting up on the website? We've got, it says voter information, then we go right into absentee. So just hours would be nice. And then also have a little bit of note to say that it is kind of a cool tradition, which I just learned about when I ran, which is that the winner or the election results are announced from the town hall floors of town hall. That's kind of a cool thing. So if you wouldn't mind throwing that up on the website too, in case any residents want to hang around for that. And then I did want to echo, if you are going to be out of town or have another reason that you cannot vote on Saturday, please show up to the town clerk's office and you can fill out an absentee ballot. I know it says absentee, but you're actually doing it in person. It's a little bit, the terminology is a little bit mixed up, but you can do an in-person ballot at the town's clerk's office if you're going to be out of town or have some other reason which you cannot vote in person. You can still do that this week, and the town clerk's office hours are on the website. So that's what I've got. Thank you all.
Thank you, Corey. All right, this has been quite a ride, as the five of us this past year. I know it's been kind of a blur, but I will always remember this group, and I'm very grateful to have been part of this entire experience. So there's no other topics. Jack, I think you're talking, but you're muted.
I was gonna give you the privilege of motion to adjourn.
I will do it. I would like to
All
officially
right.
make the motion to adjourn.
Second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Jack Creighton, aye.
Ray Evans, aye.
Usually double die.
Diane Kennedy, aye.
Carrie Thompson, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Don't forget
thank
to
you.
vote Saturday.